Welcome to What the Flick, everybody. I'm John Iadarola. Today we're talking about Game of Thrones Season 3, Episode 2, titled Dark Wings, Dark Words. But I'm not going to be talking about it alone. We're joined by two very excellent colleagues of mine. Anna Kasparian, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good. I can't wait to talk about the Game of the Thrones.
I know, we've been only talking about it for the last half an hour while I've been doing setup. And Brett Erlich is here as well.
Hi, everyone.
He's playing the role of both Cenk Uygur and Ben Mankiewicz today, so he's got a big seat to fill, I guess. No crack at Cenk there. Anyway, so obviously a big episode. Now, it's not the premiere anymore, so we're a little bit more grounded in what's going on, but we do have some new characters to talk about. Is there anything you want to jump in with first, something you're really eager to talk about?
I just can't wait to talk about the scene with Lady Margaery and Joffrey when they're playing with the bow and arrow. I know we'll get into that in a little more detail, but in that scene we learn that Joffrey hates gay people, which I think that there are some parallels with American politics there, and we'll get into that a little bit, right?
Okay.
Right?
We can't, no, I
we're definitely
veto.
talking about
Speaking of American politics, I veto that. We can't do that.
Yeah.
We can't talk about American
we're not
politics.
going to be talking about Lady Margaery at all. She wasn't important in this episode. Okay, so but why don't we talk about the new characters first? Because we've still got four, or five. Jojen Reed and Meera Reed join Bran Stark and his little coterie of followers in the north. I found, even as a reader of the books, that they didn't have nearly enough backstory or explanation about what they were doing there.
Yes.
Did you guys feel the same way?
Yeah, I have no idea who he is, and I'm just waiting for him to like fall in love with a good singing black child, and it'll be Love Actually all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Every once in a while when you're watching Game of Thrones, if you haven't read the books, you like have this moment of, what the fuck? Like, what did I miss? I don't understand. Did I miss something, or is this supposed to be confusing? Right. And I've just come to accept the fact that it's supposed to be confusing, and it'll all come together later in the season.
Yeah. What's so interesting, I was telling them that one of my roommates was entirely confused while watching it, and they're doing as much as they can in the show, but understand that, like, those two characters, I don't think this is a spoiler, they've already been around for one book at this point. They just decided to wait until now to show them. But also, people are obviously confused about, there's so many characters. But they've cut it down to nothing. There's so many more characters in the books.
It's the opposite problem of The Hobbit. The Hobbit's like, here is now a whole 8-minute scene about something they mentioned and didn't even go into. And this is just like, oh, I don't know. And what I need is supplemental materials, i.e. John Iadarola, to kind of tell me exactly who the hell Love Actually boy is. Yeah. And his like strange weapon sister.
I think it's so interesting though that you can just make someone a little bit grubby, give him a particular haircut, and you're like, that dude is totally British. I know he's in Westeros, but he looks totally British. But anyway, so those are the characters that like sort of appear out of dreams, or at least Jojen did, and he's protected by his sister. The next interesting character that we were introduced to was Lady Olenna, the Queen of Thorns.
I love her.
I liked her too, although I don't trust her. I think that there's something shady going on, and I think she was asking Sansa too many questions.
But she offered her lemon cakes. How bad could she be?
That's true. You can't go wrong with lemon cake. But she's going to do something shady. She seems like a very smart woman and very manipulative and calculating.
They're thorn people. They're very beautiful and they're very appealing and draw you in, but then they can stick you. And that's why I like their crest. It's a rose on their. I did research.
Yeah, the Tyrells, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's the prickly one.
Smart. And I mean, I think that that what's her name, the queen mother of the Cersei. Yeah. Sorry, that's why I need you.
Queen mom.
Queen mom. Yeah. Cersei is right about that, and she knows. And there's just parallels, and so it's so fucked up because Joffrey's mom and his wife to be are the same person.
Yeah. That's so true, which is probably why he's starting to have a little bit of a hard-on for her.
And that's what we're all afraid of as men.
What I like about Lady Olenna is that, similar to many of the other successful female characters in this world, she's relying on her wits. But what's interesting about her, I think, that distinguishes her from Cersei, is that she very much is fine doing it behind the scenes. Like, Cersei's also kind of clever, but she considers herself smarter than she is. Like, she thinks she can outsmart Tyrion, and she also wants to rule. She's not happy just being married to the ruler, for instance. But before we go on with the other characters, since she was involved in one of the pivotal scenes of this episode, why don't we talk about that, her scene with Sansa?
Her scene with Sansa. So, are you talking about when they were having the lemon cake and everything? Okay. So that lemon cake episode or scene made me uncomfortable because of the fact that Sansa has been very, very good at keeping her feelings and emotions a secret. And as I said in the last review, the worst thing you can do in this show is to express your emotions or to express a tiny little moment of weakness. And in that scene, Sansa expressed a moment of weakness. She called Joffrey a monster.
Here's the thing: is like I thought about this, but then there's no reason that Taquito Queen, I call her. Taquito. Can I just say Margaery from now on? I printed out a picture of her. She wears this one dress where she looks like a taquito. And so I just call her Taquito Queen. So Taquito Queen, there's no reason she couldn't just make that up anyway. There's no reason later she can't pull Joffrey aside and say, you know that girl who says that Joffrey is my one and only love?
She's looking for details,
That's the
right?
thing, so that's all that she uses. All she's gonna use is something that she would probably have figured out anyway.
That he's a monster?
But hold on. Okay, so the
Everyone
monster,
knows he's a monster. That's what everybody
everyone
says.
knows he's a monster, but not everyone knows the fact that after beheading Ted Stark, I'm sorry, Ned. Did I say Ted?
Yeah.
Ned
Teddy
Stark.
He's a bear from the north. Yeah.
After beheading
Yo, look at
Ned
this guy's
Stark,
face.
After beheading him, remember he put Joffrey put his head on a spear or whatever it is.
And George Bush's head was right next
Yeah.
to it. Remember that whole controversy?
Yes, I do remember that. And remember, he made Sansa look at Ned Stark's head.
Yeah.
They also beat her. They
also
stripped her
beat
down.
No, they did. But here's the thing: like, those are details that if Lady Margaery wants to throw Sansa under a bus, now all of a sudden it's not just something generic like, she said
that's
you're
true.
a monster.
That's absolutely
Here's
true.
some details. Here's what she shared with me. Is it true?
Well, what
oh
do
my
you think,
gosh.
though, about the fact that she says that and their reaction? They don't really seem to care or mind.
Oh, no. That's what's so cool about them is they're not going to show a big reaction at the time.
Right.
And that's a lot of the ambiguity in Game of Thrones that I really like. Is the whole thing, it like plays on whether you don't know whether the people are with you or against you until the moment when they actually choose to strike.
The only other thing I want to say about that scene in particular is that they seem to have dialed back the sex position from the first two seasons of the whore having sex while someone talks about the plot. But I like that in that they would do a shot of Sansa looking all like, can I trust these people? And then shot of Margaery's cleavage. And then back to Sansa, and then Margaery's cleavage.
Right.
That dress was awesome.
I didn't notice
Yeah, she
Margaery's
dresses
cleavage
like
because I'm
a
not a
harlot. It was
The
robo-perv
tightest
like you.
for a reason.
For a reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
I only notice when there's no cleavage and they look
That
like
doesn't happen
a
with
piece of Mexican food. That's all I notice.
Okay, one other character that was introduced, although only briefly. I wish Cenk was here because I wanted to see if this stressed his ability to suspend disbelief. But Orell, I don't know if you caught his name, the Warg, the guy with the white eyes looking at the bird in the sky.
Was anyone else taking it like a weird Star Trek place? Because Warg just sounds like Worf and the Borg put together. Let's start. No.
The Klingon cyborg, yeah. So he can obviously skin change, and that's one of the most explicit uses of magic that we've seen in a while. And obviously Cenk, at least, usually isn't into that, but you don't seem to mind.
I didn't mind that scene, but as soon as they get a little too magical and mystical, I start to lose interest. A little bit.
No, the worst thing about Game of Thrones is when they like paraphrase modern medical conditions all the time. When the whole thing where Jon Snow's wife from, what's her name? Jon Snow. No, not Jon Snow.
Not Jon Snow, the other one.
Who's the new Queen of the
Caitlyn.
North? The Queen of the North. What's her name?
You're talking about the mother of the King of the North, Caitlyn Stark.
No, the other one, the one you just married.
Oh,
I know what you're talking about.
So the one from, where's she from? Across the North Sea.
I forget her name.
I don't fucking know.
She's from Volantis. The lady from Volantis.
So the whole thing, she's like, suddenly the guy was choking, and this man pressed repeatedly on his chest until he threw up water from the river. That's fucking CPR. That's annoying. The other thing where it's like, Tywin Lannister is like, my son mixes up the ideas of letters in his brain, and I had to sit with him for 4 hours. That's fucking dyslexia. That's the most frustrating thing about Game of Thrones. I love the goddamn magic. Do more magic. And I love that it's like, oh god, there's no magic in this world, and out of nowhere there's a goddamn dragon.
Yeah.
That's what's cool about Game of Thrones. Their shitty, archaic explanations of modern day medical conditions. That's what's wrong with Game of Thrones. So bring on the
dyslexia.
magic.
But if they said stuff like dyslexia and CPR,
Just fucking skip that shit. He was an idiot, and I had to teach him to read. That's it. That's how you would do that. It's just all this like dancing around dyslexia, which you're supposed to do when your child has dyslexia.
that has to be the most like obscure criticism.
Yeah.
It's
of the
just
show.
ridiculous. Have you ever been watching a show and it just starts smacking you in the face? That's what it feels like.
I guess. Well, actually, sort of related to that, there was a talk of a medical condition in this episode when Caitlyn Stark is talking to the new Queen of the North, Robb's new wife. They're talking about Jon Snow.
Yeah.
And she has a very long monologue about it. I have some thoughts about that. What did you think about that?
I love that scene, especially because I always saw Catelyn Stark as a very like honest and kind woman, and that was like her moment of, you know what, I really, really fucked up. But like, can you blame her? It's the bastard child. Do you want to take care of the bastard child? So for those of you who want to know what I'm specifically talking about, she basically talks about how, Jon Snow was brought to her by her husband, Ned Stark, and or Ted Stark, I don't remember. Anyway, and it was his bastard child, and then she was forced to take care of a motherless child, and she didn't want to do that, so she wished like death upon him, and then he got the pox, and she's like, oh my God, he has the pox. Now I'm gonna pray to all the gods that he gets better, and he does get better, and her promise was that if he does get better, she will be a mother to him, but she couldn't keep her promise.
Yeah.
And now she thinks that everything that's happening, all the negative things, Arya missing, Sansa being held captive by the Lannisters, all of that is basically bad karma for what she did.
Yeah. What I like about that scene, aside from the fact I didn't really like the scene all that much because I find her to be kind of a boring character, and I wish they'd get on to better things like Daenerys. But it did characterize her. But the problem, what I liked about it, what it showed about her, is that it's not just the enemies of the Starks, the bad people who are sort of irrational. Like she's wrong. It's not bad karma.
I thought it was fantastic.
Like she's totally misplaced. Exactly.
For someone who's just like, stay warm. Tell the truth and stay warm. That's like the Starks.
Basically, yeah.
It's wintry. It's wintry in the north, and they seem to have very practical approaches to like dealing with problems. And this was fantastically superstitious.
Yeah.
And maybe she's kind of coming undone. Also.
Yeah, she's furiously making like a dream catcher for dead children, basically. So another character that we were reintroduced to that I don't believe was in the first episode, Theon Greyjoy. He's having kind of a rough time.
It's so bad to be Theon Greyjoy. He's so miserable.
Well,
whenever I'm having a bad day, I just go like, nah. Theon Greyjoy's having a way worse life.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, he didn't play his cards right.
No, he
sorry.
burned children. What I like about this scene is that there's like obviously barbaric cruelty and violence in this world.
I couldn't
People
handle
are getting
that.
killed all the time, but you just stick a dagger under someone's nail, and that stands out in a violent world.
Oh,
So
I
totally.
thought that was pretty exciting.
Definitely.
Okay, so but the scene that I know you wanted to talk about was the crossbow scene.
Yes.
So set the stage for us.
So Joffrey calls Lady Margaery into his room as he's messing around with this crossbow, and he says, "I'm going hunting. Is there anything you need before I leave?" And I'm like, oh, that's very, very kind of Joffrey, right? That's like, but of course, that's not really what he wants to do. As soon as she says, "Oh, I'm fine. Everything is wonderful. You are the best king ever," he goes, "How come you never had a baby with
Renly.
With Renan. Renly, sorry.
Why with young Judd Apatow is what I call him.
Why did you not have a baby with Renly? And then he's like, what's wrong with you, right? And basically she ends up telling him, well, I think he was gay, right? I'm paraphrasing. That's not how she said it.
Degenerate, I believe is.
Yeah.
Well, he says that.
He calls, and then
he's not interested in ladies. That's what she says.
Yeah, she said that. And then Joffrey basically says that he calls him a degenerate, and then indicates that he has like a lot of hatred for gay people, which makes me think that he's projecting and he's probably gay himself.
So that was
because he didn't want to sleep with the whores.
He wants the death penalty for gay people.
He wants the death penalty for gay people. And remember when his uncle gave him whores, he didn't want to sleep with the whores.
So yeah, that's the thing is I'm trying to sort through whether he's a homosexual, and I can't tell if he's just a homosexual or a sadist.
Right.
Or both, possibly.
Or both. But like you wonder because.
Yeah,
like where is this coming from, and does his like self-repression present in ways that are involved beating the shit out of people with like phallic objects? Does he like take this? It wasn't like a bedpost and beat the shit out of the girl with it. So take this penis and hit her with it. Yeah, because I wish there was a penis.
I think that that's actually the case. I think that he's repressing any type of sexual desire he wants, which is why. Because why is he so randomly cruel? Yes, he has a horrible mother who was like.
He had a bad father too.
He had a bad father.
And
yes, that's all fair. But
sister.
he's just
the product of incest.
He is the product of incest, but he's just so unbelievably cruel when he's had like everything given to him on a silver platter.
Yeah.
You know?
The whole thing. They have this whole. There was that one scene where they were sitting together and they're saying maybe by inbreeding we incur the possible fate of the Targaryens, where it's like every time they've had a Targaryen child, they flipped a coin and it could end up crazy, and they think that this is what happened. Yeah. By inbreeding, we have two really nice kids, and then this fucking monster. And unfortunately,
Who
the
happens to
monster
be
is in charge
eldest.
of everything.
Yeah.
She should just smother him and kill him. Speaking of which, I got this new thing.
Is it a taquito?
It's a new design, Anna. And it punches holes. And I was wondering if you
Brett.
could help me.
You're supposed to lightly caress it right
Could
near
you
his
please help
hand.
me
I think.
caress it? Hang on, let me put Taquito Queen in there and we can punch her 3 holes.
Oh, Brett,
God.
my father never let me punch holes. Show it to me. Oh my goodness.
So
I thought that would go way better.
I think that was probably the best scene of this episode.
It was exciting.
And the reason is that Margaery shows how clever and quick thinking she is, that she
Yeah.
read him and instantly played into that role. And like she had him into her by the end, that she was willing to sort of go along with the violence and everything. And what I like about it is that you earlier had the scene with Cersei and Joffrey in that same room, and Cersei just could not communicate with him.
Yeah.
And you see them getting distance apart while Margaery's drawing closer.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the reason why I was so uncomfortable with the scene with Sansa and the fact that she disclosed way too much information to Lady Margaery, because I know Lady Margaery is going to use that information against Sansa at some point. Margaery wants to be queen, and she will stop at nothing to get there. I mean, come on. And, the line where Joffrey is like, "Would you kill something?" And she's like, "Oh yes, would you like to see me?" Right?
I
I'm
want to
like,
watch
damn.
me kill something.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of weird, pervy stuff in my life. I've never been like, here, come watch me kill something.
Well, but that actually plays into your question: is he gay or is he a sadist? Because either one of those could be explained by that last quote that goes back and forth between them.
It's amazing. I don't know. I think there's a bunch of weirdness going on in this guy that just he's not being honest with himself about something.
Yeah.
And I hope it turns into one huge extreme explosion of repression and angst.
Well, we'll see.
But I think with Taquito Queen, I think it's just the whole thing. It's like it's an all-out free marketplace for people who want to, gain power, and she's just the best business person at it right now.
Yeah, she is.
She's pretty smart. So the one other there was Arya Stark as well. We can talk about that if you want. But the other big storyline that sort of is developed to some extent, although not fast enough for our executive producer Arena, is Bran continues to take Pretty Boy Lannister across the Riverlands, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They have their sword fight, the big action scene of the episode. What'd you guys think of that?
Awesome. How it develops from beginning to end. When it first starts out, Jaime Lannister, I just call him Jaime Lannister because that's an easy, the Kingslayer. So the Kingslayer thinks he's totally got this figured out. And then large beast woman starts fighting. And at the beginning, she seems to be a little scared of how he's going to fight.
Yeah.
And then by the end, she has him all figured out. And she's beating the shit out of him.
Yeah,
She's kicking
yeah.
him, she's punching him. And then she kind of goes like Neo at the end of the first Matrix, where she's just like sort of
it's
doesn't
fantastic.
even care. Now, to be fair, his hands are bound. So he doesn't have like perfect freedom of movement and everything, but he's considered one of the best swordsmen in Westeros.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome for her. So you had the action element, the fact that he did try to escape and everything, when they had sort of been getting closer over the last few episodes. But what is most interesting, I think, about that scene is that you had the farmer come back at the end of it. Now, she had been presented with the possibility that maybe you should kill this guy because he might betray you. And so we see once again that doing the honorable thing ended up poorly for them because now they're captured.
Don't do the honorable thing, trust no one, don't share emotion, and kill people when you have the opportunity.
Yeah.
That's the only way you win. And you have to be extremely smart. Margaery, Tyrion, those are smart characters. And I think that those are the characters, I could be absolutely wrong about this, but those are the characters that are probably going to stay with us for several seasons.
And not get their heads cut off.
It's like there's
Yeah.
one episode where there was this theme of power. Just there are 3 different people were talking about
Quotes,
power.
yeah.
Knowledge is power, saith Tyrion, and then power is power. And then there was someone else just talking about power. And I think we see this all swirling. Dragons, magic is power. So I think that's what everyone's fighting with. The smart people who seem to be doing well, the people with the biggest army who seem to do okay until magic and these random things come around and completely take it from them.
Yeah.
But I just see all these other swirling. There's so many irons in the fire and so many fronts that have been opened up that we'll see people kind of assert their power and take the throne, and then out of nowhere they're no match for a dragon. I hope, because I love dragons.
The one, I guess, final thing that I would say about the show that I didn't like is the fact that there was no Daenerys in this last episode.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I think that Daenerys, it should be a requirement that she is in every single episode.
Right, but to animate those dragons takes so long and so much money.
We'll just have them off
Probably.
camera, just some noises.
Just
I
dragons.
don't even care about the dragons. Like, just have her in.
Well, that's
like,
where I disagree
know
with you.
In the preview, it looked like she was gonna buy more slaves from that shady guy. So
From Ben Kingsley.
is that his
He
name?
It looks like Ben
him.
Kingsley.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
But yeah, so at least we know she'll be in the next episode. But I love Khaleesi. She's
They
just
need more of her. I mean, it could be its own show if they wanted to.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
could just have a spin-off with like Tyrion and Daenerys, like a buddy cop sort of thing or something. That would be pretty awesome.
Dude, Emilia Clarke, who plays Khaleesi, is probably one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my entire life.
She is, but Taquito Queen, she did well
she's
this last episode.
she's attractive too, but
Yeah.
I feel like Emilia Clarke is like,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm trying to think, is there anything we missed about this episode? Anything else you wanna say?
We haven't talked about Arya. And
Yeah,
the
what did you guys
and
think
the
about
Hound.
that? I felt it was a bit weak, that whole
Yeah,
thing.
that was the most boring part. Except I'm very curious to see what what are they called?
Brotherhood.
The Brotherhood of the Banner or
the
something?
Brotherhood without banners.
Without banners,
Yeah.
yes.
It's like Doctors Without Borders, but with way more swords.
And singing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what happens with those guys because my gut feeling is that they're not bad, but I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they seem like good guys, and I like that they don't, you know.
Are they hippies?
They
seem
seem
like-
a little bit hippie-ish.
Yeah, which
They
is why I
seem
like
very
them, I
merry.
guess.
Yeah, it just was Robin Hood walking around the
Totally.
forest with his merry men.
Yeah, you gotta
this
love the
man's a
arrow
good
in the
archer,
air.
and I am jovial. My name is John of a certain size.
Yeah. Oh, that was another character, by the way, that was introduced. Thoros of Myr was the guy with the sword. Very different than I expected he would look. And we had the Hound come back. So he's back in the picture. He had a couple lines.
Right. There was a
two.
few scenes, and it's all setting up what's going to happen next when
Yeah.
when we find out what the Hound's going to do with this information, because it seems like he was partial to a certain Stark, to Sansa, but we're not sure now that he's kind of up against the wall because he was brought in with a bag over his head what he's going to do to barter for his life.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And again, I'll say this just
And
for...
also they know that this is a blacksmith from King's Landing that she's traveling with black hair, and this guy was being searched for probably by dog at the time when they were eliminating all hounds.
Yeah.
Sorry, hound and dog.
Yeah.
Second
Yeah,
language.
the Royal Corgi.
The Royal Corgi. Huge Corgi. Gorgy Kong. Corgi Kong. But yeah, so maybe they'll put it 2 and 2 together and try to kill him.
Yeah. Okay, so what are you guys hoping, last thing, what do you guys want to see in the next episode? Obviously Daenerys.
I want to see Daenerys, and I want to learn more about the Brotherhood with no banners. Because I'm very curious to see if like they're the good guys, if they're the bad guys, and also more Lady Margaery. Even though I don't like her, any scene with her so far has been very tittillating.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Because
about
she
you?
dresses like a harlot.
A harlot for a reason.
I want more is that Dame Judi Dench, i.e. the Queen
Olenna.
of Thorns. And I want to see a weird sex scene with Taquito Queen and Joffrey.
Yeah.
And because also she did mention that she kind of does anal.
Yeah, well, she
was
brought
like-
it up
she
anyway.
She basically says she's open to anal,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, she says that as if she's sort of throwing him under
Like,
the
to
bus,
him,
but she might be trying
She's
to
like,
appeal
I'm
to
just
him.
saying, like, I just want to be queen.
Yeah.
And whatever part of you I need to touch to do that, and whatever needs to die,
Yeah.
I'm game.
Yeah, I want to see more Margaery. She is probably they've been diverging from the books, but she's not very much in the books all that much. Like, she's not a point of view character. I think that they've done the best when they've been expanding her role. I also want to see more of the saddest man in the Seven Kingdoms. That would be Samwell up in the north. Just trudging along so sad. He just falls down to die in the snow.
Oh.
Even though I have to say, it didn't look that cold or rugged there. I feel like I could have trekked across it. But anyway, that's what I'm hoping to see. Let us know in the comments what you guys are looking forward to, what you thought was the best new character, the best scene of this episode, and what you want to see in future episodes. And of course, come back every week throughout the rest of this season. We're going to be reviewing each episode as they come out. But we'll see you next time on What the Flick.